Hey everyone, welcome back to Raising the Nuts. Just wanted to give you guys a little update on where I'm at right now as far as poker goes. March was an awesome month. I played a lot of poker, played about 130 hours online, 80,000 hands or so, 3 Sundays worth of tournaments, and just put in a lot of volume. It was a lot of fun. And content-wise...
Oh, look who joined us.
Content-wise, I spent a lot of hours, obviously, on the YouTube channel and on the Twitch channel. So balancing both of these is kind of an interesting thing. It's a lot of work. Probably put about 60 hours into that, as well as Twitch streaming and all that stuff. So it's been so much fun, though, and I really enjoy it. And I'm looking forward to continuing to grow the channel and continuing to play my normal volume of poker. So we did just get back. I took the last 5 days off because we went down to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina for a cheer competition for the girls. Took some time off of poker. Didn't really have a chance to play any poker because there's no poker down there. So for the video this week, I decided that I was going to do 5 of my favorite hands that I've ever played. There's a pretty good bluff in here. There's a fun suck out and just some interesting hands. So hopefully you guys enjoy the video. The first hand comes from the $340 Six Max event at the Trump Classic in December of 2006. The blinds were 200 and 400, and I had about 8,000 in my stack, and it folded around to the button, who raised to 1,200. The small blind called, and I had King 8 suited in the big blind. So I decided to shove for 20 big blinds. I must have thought the button had a weak hand, I'm not sure. The button ended up folding pretty quickly. The small blind tanked for a long time and called with ace-jack offsuit, which back in those days, in 2006, this was a pretty loose call that you wouldn't normally see. The flop, so I'm all in for my tournament life. The flop comes down King, Queen, 10, rainbow. So ace-jack flops the nuts, and I'm left drawing very slim. However, the turn was an 8, and then the river is a king, so I make a full house to double up. Pretty standard all-in pre-flop, so it's not like it wasn't standard in the sense that I jammed 20 big blinds with King 8 suited, but, just a standard all-in King 8 versus Ace-Jack. But for me to go ahead and win after this flop was pretty crazy, and then I was able to run this stack up and eventually end up finishing in second place in the tournament, chopping it heads up for my biggest score ever at the time, which was $14,500. If you want to see a little bit more about what happened after this tournament, check out vlog number 4. It's called My First Poker Heater, where the kids do some funny acting on what happened after this tournament. So the second hand comes from the 10-10 game at Parks that I used to play in every day. This is probably around 2012 or 2013. I raised to $40 in early position with ace-queen offsuit with the ace of hearts. My buddy, who I used to play with very often, we'll call him HK, he flats in the cutoff. The button calls and one of the blinds calls, and we take the flop 4 ways. The flop comes down King 2-3 with 2 hearts. They check to me, I bet $80. HK makes the call and the other 2 players fold. The turn is a 10, so I pick up a gut shot as well as the fake flush draw with the nut flush blocker. So I go ahead and continue betting for $180, and HK calls again. So gonna need some improvement on the river. The river is the 5 of hearts. So the flush gets there, I have the nut flush blocker, so obviously just going to keep going for it. So I bet $370. He thinks a bit and then makes it $1,100. So obviously I think it's pretty likely he has a flush here. It's really hard for him to come up with many bluffs. I have taken a pretty strong line here, obviously, betting into 3 players on the flop and then betting 3 streets. And I have the nut flush blocker, so sometimes you got to be a hero and go for it. So I go ahead and jam all in for $2,700. So I think it was about $1,600 more to him. Not a huge raise back to him, obviously, but I'm repping the nuts, and I'm probably going to have the nuts here a lot. So I go for it, and HK thinks for a while, and then mucks. I think what he had was Queen 10 of hearts, if I remember correctly. I get, a pretty eating grin on my face because I'm happy that I bluffed HK in this spot.
Want to see one?
And I show the Queen of clubs to put the knife in a little bit further into him, and it was a fun hand and nice to be able to get a big bluff like that through. Third hand comes from the 2009 WSOP main event. I was doing pretty well in the tournament. I believe it was on day 2, and this Italian guy comes to the table with a ton of chips. He's got 170,000 or 180,000 chips, and the blinds are 500 and 1,000. Very early on, he gets involved in a big pot, in a 3-bet pot where the board is 10, 6, 4 with 2 spades, and it runs out 6 and 10. So double paired board. And on the river, it checks to him, and he very aggressively says,
I'm all in.
And the other guy snaps him off very quickly. And the guy angrily flips over Queen Jack of spades.
Queen high.
And loses like a 300,000 chip pot. Very shortly after that, I raise to 2,600 with King Jack offsuit, and he calls in the big blind. The flop comes down King 6-6 with 2 spades. He checks, I bet 4,200, and he calls pretty quickly. The turn is an offsuit 4. He checks, and I decide to just jam for 20K. And he looks around, and then slams his chips into the pot and walks away before I even turn my hand over. I'm like, what has just happened? He's walking away, and everybody's like, what are you doing? He just walks away. They turn his hand over. He has pocket 8s. They deal out the river card. He's already out the door. So this isn't a WSOP main event. He basically just gave away his 30,000 in chips and walked out the door before even seeing the river card. It was pretty amazing. All right, hand number 4. This hand took place in the 2009 WSOP circuit event at Caesars Atlantic City. It was a $340 event. I think we had just gotten into the money. I had started the hand with about 95,000 in chips, somewhere around there. And my opponent had me covered. I think he had about 140 or 150,000, somewhere around there. And that was huge stacks at this point in the tournament. Like the 100 chips were still in play. So like physically, it was just huge stacks. And at this time, when those tournaments ran, they didn't have great structures. They were almost all turbo structures. So to have like 30 big blinds at this point was a big stack. So it folded around to me on the button at 1,500, 3,000 blind. I raised to 8,000 with ace-king offsuit, and the big blind defended. The flop came down 8-3-2 rainbow, and he checked, and I bet 12,000, and he shoved all in pretty quickly, and I just snap called with ace-high. I had some history with the guy from what I remember. I don't really know what I was thinking at the time, but I was just like, I'm going to bet call against this guy, even though this is for a huge amount of chips. So at this time, my friend AG was actually on the rail watching, enjoying some adult beverages, having a good time, cheering me on.
Woo, let's go travel!
And when I bet and snap called, we turned our hands over, and the big blind had queen 7 offsuit for queen high. I show the ace king, and AG just goes crazy, excited.
Yes!
Then the dealer burns and turns. Queen on the turn, and AG screams.
No!
River card, ace of spades, and AG celebrates, runs around the room celebrating, dancing.
Yes, 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 yes.
It was hilarious. I mean, it was just a fun hand in general because, I'm bet calling ace high on a flop, on an 8-3-2 flop for basically the chip lead in the tournament probably. And then you'll see in this picture here, like, I just had all these physical chips in front of me and AG celebrating, a little bit drunk. And it was just a fun experience. And I ended up turning this into a 6th place finish in the event for like 12K. So it was a nice little score. So the last hand, this hand is ridiculous. This was in 2013 at the World Series of Poker at the Rio. I was playing in the cash games at the 5-10 game. In 2013, Jody and I decided to drive out to Vegas. We had Cam and Ava, no Andrew, just Cam and Ava, who were at the time almost 5 and almost 3. So you can imagine that driving across the country with 2 little kids, 48 hours, whatever, and I drove the entire way. We stopped in Chicago and Denver. It was a fun trip, but I was exhausted by the time we got to Vegas.
No, we're going to Las Vegas. How you doing, Cam?
Good.
Yeah? Okay, don't do that. No. Alright, how you doing in the car all this time?
Me. Crazy Cameron.
Okay, yeah, we're like 8 or 9 hours from Denver. We have to make it there tonight. That's what I'm dealing with. That right there. In Las Vegas, at the Rio, after 5 long days of traveling. Today went a little bit longer than expected because I had to drive really slow because we're going through the mountains and the wind kept blowing and all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's
And I had to go to the bathroom 1,000 times.
Yep, that happened a lot.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
But and Ava fell asleep about 10 minutes before we got to Las Vegas in standard Ava fashion.
I did not fall asleep.
Okay. And so so yeah, what time is it?
And I was dealing with like a bunch of migraines. Just didn't feel that great while I was there, but I was playing cash games and probably not playing my best due to the migraines. And this hand is kind of evidence of that. So the action kicks off with two very, very bad players, probably the two biggest spots at the table, limping in an early position, and a good player limping in the hijack. The small blind completed, and I checked in the big blind with 9-6 of diamonds.
He got you dead. Okay, limped pot here. Everything's standard so far.
The flop came down ace of diamonds, 10 of diamonds, 7. And the small blind checked. I decided to lead for $50.
Leading seems okay here, I guess.
The two weak players folded, and the good player in the hijack made the call, and the small blind folded. When the hijack called on the flop, I assumed that he had a pretty weak hand, as I thought that he'd ISO the weaker players with any good hand at all. So on an offsuit 4, I decided to continue betting, and I bet $115.
Yeah, this guy probably doesn't have much. Just keep betting.
The hijack was having none of that, though, and made it $350. And when he made $350, I thought it was kind of strange because I felt like the best possible hand he could have would be like an ace 4 type hand, but more likely like a hand like 4-7 of diamonds might make sense. But those were like the best hands he could possibly have.
He raised. It's 2013. Just click some buttons, Dad.
I'm going to put in the 3-bet to $850. He thinks a bit and then makes the call. So the river is an offsuit ace. We don't improve. And I just kind of instinctively checked it over to him because I think it's such a bad card for me to continue bluffing. And he thinks a little bit and then shoves all in for $1,700. And I don't instantly muck because I'm trying to think about what he could possibly have. And as I'm thinking about it more, I'm like, man, like all of his really strong full houses and things like that, pocket pairs would raise pre-flop. All of his ace X hands would raise pre-flop. And so, especially like given the makeup of the table and the players who limped in. So I'm thinking about it more and like, I'm looking at him, I just really feel like he's bluffing. I know that I have 9 high, but I feel like he's bluffing. So I don't know what I'm thinking, but I end up just deciding to make the call.
Wait, what, you called?
Yeah, I called with 9 high.
I don't care what cards he has. That was a stupid call.
Yes, it was probably a stupid call, but he mucked. He put him in the muck, and we won the hand. We win this huge hand with 9 high. I turn my cards over. No one is paying attention, even though this is a huge pot. No one's paying attention except for the old guy to my right.
So apparently my camera battery died just as we were recording this, but it ended up working out perfectly because this face that Cam has is basically what my opponent's face looked like. He was kind of laughing a little bit. As I was saying in the story, the old guy to my right actually said to me, I wonder if he mucked the winning hand, but then the kid later confirmed that he actually had 8 high. So not a good call, but it ended up working out. I think I got really lucky to make this call here that he didn't just show me jack high or queen high or something like that. I'm sure this is not a good call in the long run, but it was pretty funny that it worked out this way, and I guess I have the migraines to thank for it.
What can I say? Bonjour.
That's not Italian.
What's Italian?
That's French.
Then what's Italian?
I don't know. Thank you guys for watching as always. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you let me know in the comments below what hand was your favorite of mine, and if you have a favorite hand of your own, share it down in the comment below. Would really enjoy reading some of your favorite hands. And if you guys have any feedback on some of the hands, I'm sure, just keep in mind that this is a highlight reel.
Whoa.
This is a highlight reel, so obviously I won all the hands, and there's many more hands that I played that were ridiculous and that I lost, so I did not include those in there. But for now, we're signing off here. What? What?
You're not the star to show Dick Brady is.
Okay, yeah, so...
And they do not want to follow you. They want to follow me.
Okay, well, tell them to sign off.
Make sure you subscribe to me. Make sure you like to me. Make sure you give us a big thumbs up to me. Bye, YouTube. Me.
See you guys next week.
Because everybody loves me. Ha.